Giant Orange Records.
Here are 10 albums nobody ever seems to talk about. We're going to start with the super fine Dandelion. This band only made one album. It's from 1967. It sounds sort of like the Buffalo Springfield and kind of like Beatles-era Revolver. It was on Mainstream Records, which means it might be in the Acid Archives, everyone's favorite book that I don't have, because who's got time to read books when you got music to listen to? But yeah, these guys, some of them went on to play with Linda Ronstadt. They were from somewhere in Arizona. And they were also previously in a band called the Mile Ends, who made an awesome 45 called Bottle Up and Go. This is a really great record, and I guess it's become somewhat pricey these days. I traded a bunch. I found this in January this year, and it's an absolute favorite of mine. There's some really strange songs on here, but for like a sort of folky garage rock record, it is supremely well recorded, and these guys look like they're having a fantastic time on this cover photo. Here's another recent acquisition for me. This is David Bowie's Space Oddity. Now, this album was originally released in 1969 with a different cover art, where it's David Bowie picture from 69, where he has kind of long, shaggy hair, and there's a blue background. This is the Ziggy Stardust David Bowie, and this album was released, or this pressing of the album was released in 1972 after David Bowie started becoming somewhat famous with the Ziggy Stardust album. Now, Space Oddity is obviously a classic track, first track on the album. The rest are fairly long acoustic numbers. They're really good songs, and I don't know why people don't talk about this album more. Obviously, this repress from 3 years later is quite a lot more affordable than the original 69 press. I don't have that to compare it to, but as an entry gateway into this Bowie album, I think it's pretty good. I mean, it sounds like Bowie. We get the classic Bowie singing, great vocalist, cool arrangements. There's some Mellotron on here. And the songs, at times they sound a little bit like Bob Dylan. Again, they're very long, a lot of words, a lot of lyrics, very introspective and intelligent lyrics, and definitely worth checking out. Now, with the recent passing of Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys have been getting a lot of love, but this album, Sunflower, was universally dismissed at the time it came out. Brian Wilson was having some mental problems at the time, and back then in 1970, nobody really knew anything about addiction or mental crises or mental health, not like we know about now. And it was pretty taboo back then, whereas now it's kind of, okay to have such things. But this is Sunflower, 1970. It was on Brother Records, and it was their first deal with Warner Brothers after leaving Capitol Records. There's a nice sunflower on the back. And the Mo Osteen, president of Warner Brother Records, talks about the liner notes on the back. Now, there's a song on here called All I Want to Do that could be like a Tame Impala kind of track. Of course, this was from 1970, way before, Tame Impala was even dreamed up. And, you can see they're kind of like full-on hippies here. They got their kids on here. Some of them got beards and fairly long hair. But, yeah, it's a pretty fantastic album, and I know certain people would claim that they like this better than Pet Sounds. I'm not going to go there, but it's definitely an overlooked album that nobody really talks about, and it's a pretty fantastic album. Talking about late 60s California that's overlooked, this is Merrill Fankhauser and his trusty HMS Bounty. Now, you might think that it's a British band based on the Union Jack and all that, but this was just repressed in 2024, late 2024, by Gerusen, which is, I believe, a European reissue label. But this is a brilliant album if you like the Buffalo Springfield and the Byrds and the West Coast pop art experimental band. There's a lot of 12-string electric guitar here. There's some great melodies, some great pop tunes. It's It's almost a little bit like the late 60s Beach Boys in a way, too. It's very like sunny LA, California pop. Merrill Fankhauser is sort of his own kind of genius. He had several different projects going on in the late 60s, and I think each band and each album had a different name. But this is easily my favorite. We got some nice pop nuggets on here. Things Going Round in My Mind and Girl, I'm Waiting for You are some of the most beautiful 60s songs. I don't know why these weren't hits, but an original one of these will set you back somewhere around like $100 or $200. But you could order this Garusin reissue for about $30, and that's what I did, and it sounds pretty darn good to me. Here's one from 1969 of Bunky and Jake LAMF. Now, this isn't the Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers LAMF, and this was cheap because it had a little piece of box tape on it. But yeah, this came out on Mercury Records, and they do like a cover of Chuck Berry's Jaguar and Thunderbird. But it's a great funky little soulful rock record. It's hard to describe. It sounds like if you were having fun in 1969, but it doesn't have all that crazy heaviness of the heavy rock from 69. This is just like a fun, lighthearted, kind of soulful, folky rock album. Here's another recent acquisition I'm just wrapping my head around. El Chico by Chico Hamilton, wearing what looks almost like a Dracula outfit on the cover here. This is on ABC's Impulse record, and apparently the 2 rainbow boxes means this was a third pressing, I believe, from 67 or so. I hate these little plastic thingies with the tape adhesive on them. Get out of here. Now, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, and this has one Hungarian jazz guitarist named Gabor Szabo on it as well. It says it was recorded in 1965, printed in the USA. And I need to get some gatefold sleeves for this, because this is a beautiful gatefold record. We can see all the different musicians that were on it here. And yeah, pretty awesome little record as far as jazz goes. I love it when we get jazzy guitars, like really cool jazzy guitars. A lot of jazz combos didn't have guitars, and you don't have any silly stuff going on. There's no strings or anything on this Chico Hamilton album, and it's very listenable jazz, and it's just quite good. Here's some instrumental soul funk. Chicken Fat by Mel Brown. Man, I heard this album, like someone gave me like an MP3 of this a really long time ago, and I thought, man, I'm never going to find this album, but thankfully Third Man Records reissued this, or they pressed it at Third Man, 180 gram. This one was actually also on the Impulse label originally. And yeah, I mean, talk about like funky, soulful guitar. If you love like gritty, dirty, soulful, crazy, like Southern fried, soulful guitar, this album is for you. I'm glad to have it in the collection. It's one of those albums I could listen to anytime. And here's one that was mostly instrumental. Harvey Mandel, The Snake. This one came out in 1972 on the Janus Records label. Never really heard of them. But yeah, I believe he played with Canned Heat or something like that. Anyway, Harvey Mandel did some really cool stuff, like, again, like funky, crazy lead guitar stuff. It's just very soulful, very tasteful, and very mostly instrumental. Yeah, it's a great little album. It's another one of those that you could listen to like almost any time while doing anything, and it'll probably just lighten up the mood. They reissued this in Record Store Day 2025, but I never found a copy, but I was able to track down an original at Wax Records in Vero, so yay for that. Talking about awesome guitarists, the Paul Butterfield Blues Band self-titled debut from I believe this one came out in 1965, or perhaps it was 66. Anyway, I think this is the second or third press in stereo. And yeah, I mean, Mike Bloomfield, that's all you need to know. This guy here played on Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone. That guitar is him. Is a Telecaster master. Huge influence on Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And I mean, I would probably listen to this over the Allman Brothers any day for soulful blues. And it's a lot closer to the source. Apparently they got endorsements from Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, because they were in Chicago at the time, and they kind of carried the torch. And here's another album nobody talks about, Muddy Waters. This is called Sail On. I believe it's a early 70s repress of his greatest hits, or best of, which the original presses from the 50s or early 60s have a black cover with just a colored picture of Muddy Waters on it. Those are rather expensive, but this has pretty much all the same songs as the Chess label. And I recently rewatched this biopic called Cadillac Records, which is basically the story of Chess Records. Muddy Waters and Leonard Chess are the main characters in that movie. It's a great little movie. I love it when movies have musicians go to the recording studio. It's just so fun to watch. But Muddy Waters is kind of where it all began for modern blues. A lot of these songs were recorded in the 1940s and 50s. Well, I guess all the ones here were recorded in the 1950s, but, you know, Rolling Stone was recorded as early as February of 1950, and that obviously influenced this little British R&B group called the Rolling Stones. Anyway, and they took Muddy Waters on tour later on in the late 60s as Chess was crumbling, so they kind of saved his career in a way, and probably saved his finances. But if you want the real, raw, gritty blues, like Muddy Waters is a great place to start. And if you haven't spun him in a while, or if you never have, that would be a great record to put on. So these are 10 records that nobody ever seems to talk about, so I'm going to talk about them because I think they're wonderful records, and it's sort of a diverse collection of music to keep you from getting too bored and having everything be too samey. So get out there and put your records on the turntable, crank it up loud, get you a good stereo, and have yourself a good time listening to your friends on these wonderful sounding old records.
Giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange.